I've put 2,000 miles on my truck this week. So the oil change that's due in August is going to have to come a little bit earlier. I'm just babbling right now. That's one of those nights where I know they're like, Harry, you had so much time. You should have a good word from God from us, and you should have something to tell us. Profound, deep, and meaningful, spiritual.
What church is?
I got nothing.
Hey, we missed you.
So, I don't have profound, deep, and I might. But I'm going to tell you a couple of tales of some churches that I ran into down there. And it's one of the churches I looked, and I don't care if I'm actually recording this and this is getting on YouTube, because nobody really watches me on YouTube anyway, so I can name names. And, yeah, whatever. We'll see what happens. And then they'll send nasty hate mail at, if you want to, it's 25 Cedar Road, Wallingford, Pennsylvania, 19086. So,
but it's for the attention of me. I need these.
They need your phone number to text you or like email you.
Most of these people are going to talk about have my prayer cards that have my name and number on it. I was doing a mission support raising is what I was doing. I am a Southern Baptist MSC missionary with the North American Mission Board. As a church planter, as a campus minister, I have no idea who's doing what. All I know is that I'm serving God here. And my purpose of my trip was to go down south and get people to basically support my ministry. And had some positives and some negatives. And I came in contact with two different churches, and I realized how different of a church of a theology of the church. I'm going to use the word ecclesiology. You ever heard of that word? I'm going to learn you something today. Ecclesiology is the theology of the church. It's a big word that theologians like to throw around, and since I've studied under some theologians, I'm going to throw it around. And I realized how different it is, and how much the sermon series that I just finished preaching on living as the left behind, how that the ideas and concepts are not living in a lot of our churches. Went to a church I worked at. I was a youth minister there for 3 years. I really should have only been a youth minister there for 1 year, but they had when I was there, the pastor got caught in an adulterous affair with the Vacation Bible School director inside the nursery across the hall from my office.
With a wrench?
No, but I think there might have been a teddy bear. I don't know. So obviously that guy's asked to leave the church. And so I hang on for another 2 years until they get a new minister. And trust me, that was the worst 2 years of my life. Well, not really the worst, but it was pretty bad. It was tough. First job as a youth minister. First job getting in there. First job serving God, where I was getting paid money to do it. And I was a professional minister, only part-time, and you only got $125 a week. And let me tell you, you can't live off of $125 a week. And I'd get things like, well, Mike, why don't you get yourself a new job? Or you need to get yourself a full-time job. And I had to look at him and I said, listen, I want this to be my full-time job. This is what I want to do. The longer I'm at another place, the less I'm here. And I couldn't drive that into their soul. I couldn't make them understand that. Well, fast forward 7 or 8 years. I'll go down just to visit, and the pastor that was hired on had just resigned. Now, that pastor that was hired on while I was still there, just before I left, resigned. The Sunday before I actually showed up. On July 3rd, he resigned. And the reason why is because they had got a new youth guy. And the story I get behind this is that this youth guy used to be a preacher at a huge church somewhere in North Carolina. He was the head pastor, the lead pastor at a huge church, numbering a couple hundred people in attendance. And he left that for some reason, and he moved around, and his wife was working somewhere, and he followed his wife's job pretty much. And now he was a youth minister at this church that numbered about 100 people Sunday morning, about slightly larger than this congregation. And from what I gathered from the story, the pastor got a little nervous. And there was a war. Not necessarily a physical fight, but there was that spiritual, intelligent pride war going on. Thinking, why is this pastor wanting to humble himself enough to be a youth minister at a small country back of the woods church in the middle of nowhere? And there is this battle that was going on in himself of fear. This guy's coming to take my job. This guy's coming to take over what I want to do. We looked at the church. If you look at the church, and you look at the church roll, the church hasn't grown in 8 years. The church hasn't done anything to affect the community in a major way in 8 years, or even in a minor way. Yeah, the youth group has gone on a few mission trips. The youth group has gone on a few mission trips. And they made an impact in other parts of the world. But this church, which was a near 3 or 4 housing developments, hadn't changed much. It got so bad that the night I went to visit, they were having the deacons meeting, and I walked into the room just to see the people there, and the same guy who was the chairman of the deacons the year that they fired the pastor, was the chairman of the deacons this year. And they had a cycle. They cycled through those guys. And I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I wonder if this church realizes that it has a problem. But they sit on their throne, on their little hill or whatever, not realizing the issues, or realizing that there is an issue, but not pinpointing it is what it is, and not saying there's nothing wrong with our church. We're good. Everything is fine. I'm not saying that numbers is an issue. If I was worried about numbers and growth, I'd look at our congregation in this room tonight, and I'd be like freaking out. Whether there's like less than 20 of us, just slightly over 10 of us tonight. I'm not worried about that. But I see the problem with that church in Simpsonville, South Carolina. And I see that they aren't moving forward. They have closed themselves into their little group, their little clique. They're not opening their doors up to anybody. They don't want to see anybody. They don't want anybody else to come in. We're fine the way we are. God bless you. Be at peace. We'll pray for you. But we're not going to do anything to effectively change the world. We don't care.